Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast, and I am your host, Samuel. In this podcast, I interview top medical sales reps and leading medical sales executives across the entire country. And it doesn't matter what medical sales industry, from medical device to pharmaceutical to genetic testing to diagnostic lab, you name it. You will learn how to either break into the industry, be a top 5% performer within your role in sales, or climb the corporate ladder. Welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Samuel, and today we have with us another special guest, and he goes by the name of Andy Olen. Andy leads a sales and leadership training organization where he coaches and works with high-performing individuals, executives, sales leaders, and professional athletes transitioning from their previous careers. He authored the book, The Trilogy of Yes, to help salespeople inspire customers to say yes. And he currently hosts the podcast, The Sales Warrior Within, where he coaches high potential leaders and is also a keynote speaker and skills trainer. He has 20 years of experience in sales leadership in healthcare. I'm so happy to have him on the show today, but I am not going to spoil it by giving you any more. For the rest of it, you're going to have to listen to the interview. As always, we do our best to bring you innovative guests that are doing things a bit differently in medical sales and truly making an impact. Thank you for listening to the Medical Sales Podcast. Hey, Andy, how are we doing today?
Doing great, Samuel. Good to see you.
You too. Why don't you tell everybody who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. So my name is Andy Olen. I lead a sales and leadership training organization, and I coach and work with high-performing individuals, senior executives, sales leaders, also transitioning special operators who are leaving the military, going to their civilian career, and also professional athletes who are transitioning from their professional athletic career, going into really the next 50 years of their life. So I love working with high performers, and I love training and working with sales teams. And all of that came after about 20 years working in healthcare, marketing, sales, and leadership positions.
Fantastic. So, I think it's great that you're on the show because I think a lot of people assume that companies have their own training. Companies have their own training, especially when it comes to their sales teams. And as long as you get hired by the good company, as far as sales training, you're done. Give us a little bit of insight into what's really going on and why it's so important to have people in the position that you're in.
Yeah, it's a great insight and it's a great question. And after and during the 20 years I spent in sales leadership roles and healthcare, I did have a bird's eye view of what was happening in terms of training salespeople and training sales teams. And what's really happening where companies in healthcare do a great job is on product training and on training their teams to communicate the clinical safety and efficacy aspects of their technology. However, it's not a core competency within most corporate healthcare training teams to train on sales skills. And that's where a lot of organizations will outsource that. And interestingly, there are a couple big training modalities and training frameworks out there that they often go to. And you may have heard of a few of these, either spin selling or the Challenger methodology. And these are very good. And my work is very complementary to what those two organizations do. However, these are big change management programs, significant investment to go with Challenger, with spin. And you also have to really rewire the way salespeople think and act and behave. And that can be really, really challenging, especially with all the demands that sales teams have of hitting their quarterly numbers or adapting to a ever more difficult environment. So a lot of outsourcing of the sales skills aspects. And that's where I sort of fit in is I step in and at a lower cost and at a much more tailored or customized experience, help sales teams and training groups deliver sales skills training that's simple, that's impactful, and can be executed right away without a whole rewiring of someone's whole sales approach.
Absolutely. So, okay. And so that really helps us, understand what the landscape looks like, right? One thing that I think some listeners might be interested to hear in is the companies that they work for outsource the sales training anyway. So there's always been a pocket for individuals like yourself. But let's talk about that for a second. As a salesperson, how important is it to always be, looking for the education around sales training? Do you feel that as a salesperson, once you kind of learn it, and as long as you're keeping it into practice, you're done? Or do you see it as something that, you should be actively looking for ways, new and maybe even more innovative ways that sales training is conducted?
Yeah, it's again a great question, and it makes me think about the term empowerment. It's a great term that's thrown out a lot, but what does it really mean? And empowerment, the definition of empowerment is to focus on strengthening your own skills in order to be able to control your own destiny. So as a salesperson, the way I think about that is I want to control my own destiny. I want to hit my numbers. I want to exceed my numbers. I want to walk across the stage, getting the President's Award, getting the big crystal trophy that I can put up in my office. And I want to be in control of my own destiny. So therefore, I need empowerment. And the way that I empower is by continuing to evolve and strengthen sales skills and my approach. And so it's incredibly important. I think it's one of the most dangerous things a healthcare sales professional can do is that when he or she lands the dream job, says, I don't have to change. I got it. I've been validated by getting this great job at this med device company, this diagnostic company, and I don't have to ever change again. The reality is you have to change every day. Otherwise, the person that is changing, evolving, adding more to their sales armamentarium is going to pass you right by. So the great salespeople, Samuel, are always looking for that new edge, that new muscle to develop. And think about the great athletes that we all know and love out there, from in my hometown, Giannis Antetokounmpo to Lewis Hamilton in racing, to Kobe, to LeBron, to you name it, Tiger Woods. These individuals never were satisfied at the top. They always needed to take that next step. Salespeople have to be continuing to evolve their skills in order to get to the top and then to stay at the top as well.
Got it. So you see it as even the most veteran sales rep should be looking for training outside of the organization that they work for.
Absolutely. And here's a stat for you. In my experience, and I poll the sales teams that I work for specifically around negotiation training, you would think most people in healthcare, they're expert negotiators. They're going up against doctors. They're going up against big procurement agencies and really tough economic customers at IDNs and GPOs and big hospitals. And you would think that these are great negotiators. The reality is 2/3 of salespeople in my data in healthcare have never had a formal negotiation course. And, that's pretty striking to think, hey, you've made it to the top of the sales pyramid in so many ways, but you've never learned how to negotiate. So there's an example where a lot of companies are saying, hey, we need to get better negotiation skills for our team, especially in this higher inflation environment. While our customers are trying to drive pricing down, we better be really savvy negotiators so we can hold revenue, we can hold margin. Oh, we have a gap. Our team hasn't been trained on this. Let's give Andy a call. Let's have him come in, work with our team to develop this muscle. So that's even where I see very tenured salespeople say, wow, I'm a lot more confident in negotiating. I never have been. And I can go out and execute immediately with these very simple practices.
Let's talk about that for a second. Negotiation. I mean, it's an obvious thing that every sales professional should understand how to negotiate. But talk to us a little bit about what it looks like when you've worked with a team that really didn't have negotiation as part of their arsenal. And then after training, you saw some big differences. What do those changes look like? And give us maybe one or two stories.
Yeah, absolutely. So 2 quick stories. I was working with a group from one of my favorite clients, Hydrofacial, which is a medical aesthetics company out of Long Beach, California. And I was actually training some of their international team members from all around the world. And the next morning after the training, and I deliver what's called a yes if training. So you can say yes to every customer request if the customer is also willing and ready to trade value for value with you. And I got a note from one of the sales reps, I think from Hong Kong, who said, I got on the phone with one of my customers after your training and I yes-ifed into a multi-system deal and felt really good about it. So literally within hours, this person was able to take the simple practices. Again, we're not boiling the ocean with these negotiation skills. These are simple actions you can take and immediately transform it into successes. Another company of mine trained about 500 people in their sales organization on this. And right away, you saw a pop in average selling price. You saw a different confidence and a swagger. And keep this in mind, Samuel, that the best salespeople, they run toward the negotiation. The reality, though, is because negotiations are often conflict-filled events and there are trained negotiators on the other side of the table from the salesperson, they're trying to bring prices down. They use conflict, chaos, and crisis to do that. So when a salesperson has more confidence, they're better communicators, and they think about forming a cooperative negotiation, they see results immediately. And you just see these confidence scores go up. Confidence leads to stronger negotiation outcomes for a company in healthcare lead to higher price, margin preservation. And so the return on investment for organizations is really big to have an upskilled sales force specifically around negotiations.
Absolutely. So talking about these sales teams, you've seen a lot. Right. Let's actually, before we do that, I want to color in your history so people can understand who they're actually listening to here. Mm-hmm. Walk us back, Andy, to your first medical sales experience. What position did you have and what were you doing in that role?
Yeah, so it actually takes me back to when I was first exposed to healthcare sales and healthcare companies. I was an MBA student at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, go Red. And I went to a corporate presentation during my first year of business school from a company called Guidant Corporation. And I remember sitting in that room and they showed a video of a grandfather talking about how he couldn't play with his grandchildren anymore because his heart was beating too slowly and he wasn't getting enough blood pumped and oxygen pumped to his muscles. He was lethargic. He was tired. And then he saw an electrophysiologist, received a Guidant pacemaker, paced up his heart rate, overcame his bradycardia, and it changed his life. And he was crying in talking about how he engaged them with his grandchildren and how much joy that brought him. And when I saw that, I'm like, I'm in. I got to be in this industry. Here's a industry where we can do things really cool on the sales and business side, and we can also really positively impact people. And so I actually started at Guidant Corporation after a summer internship and started there as a compensation analyst. I was writing comp plans and sales incentive plans for the sales organization. That changed into a big change management effort I worked on when Johnson & Johnson tried to buy Guidant Corporation back in like 2002. That didn't work. Guidant got split out. Half went to Boston Scientific, half went to Abbott. I ended up going to Abbott, where I soon then ran the Xience drug-eluting stent launch as a U.S. marketing manager. We got to market leadership in 90 days, and I spent a lot of time in marketing. They said, Andy, good job in marketing. We're going to ship you off to Canada. I said, all right, sounds good. So I moved to Toronto and was national sales manager there. So I went sales operations to marketing to sales, and then from there to general manager in Canada, general manager Canada, Latin America. Moved around a bit, ended up at Siemens Healthineers and ran North American Lab Diagnostics, which was a $1.5 billion business. And so it's been a wonderful journey and really rewarding. Then in 2019, I started my own company because I wanted to get back closer to helping salespeople, sales leaders upskill and really to live and work within my passion, which is teaching and also presenting and communicating and training as well.
Absolutely. So as we were saying, you've led sales teams. I mean, you've seen the good, you've seen the bad, and you've seen the ugly.
Yes.
Tell us, what are maybe the top 3 things that you see sales professionals consistently do well? Like when you see this happen, they're going to do well, and maybe 3 things on the con side.
Yeah, good question. So curiosity. Every great salesperson is hyper curious and remains curious. So, for example, we're now living in a high inflation, high interest rate environment. The curiosity mechanism inside a top salesperson is going to say, what does this mean for me and my customers and my products? Let me learn more about what a hospital is going through with higher interest rates. Oh my God, their bonds are adjusting because it's a variable interest bond. That tightens the P&L. They're going to have to cut costs. They're probably going to come to my company as a vendor and say, we needed to cut our costs. How am I going to negotiate my way through that? You can see that curiosity gene, just being aware what's going on, studying it, is really critical when there are big headwinds facing the salesperson. A great salesperson is hyper curious. Second, we talked about it earlier, always curious, as one of my friends and others call it, having the growth mindset. I want to grow. I want to improve. I linked that to and link it to empowerment because that's a way to control my own destiny. So that is number two. And then I would say the third is that, great salespeople, and let me give you an analogy here. When it's Friday at 4 o'clock and you're driving home from your last call, your last appointment, maybe you're at 100% to quota, 101% to quota, but there's something inside you that says, I want more. I'm going to stop at 4:30 and then 5 o'clock at that last account. And I'm going to see if the doctor's there. I'm going to see if the customer's there. And I'm going to make that one last stop because that Friday at 4, it could be I'm going to drive home, hit the golf course, grab a drink. But the great salespeople go to that one last customer stop before the weekend starts. And then they're probably after it on Saturday and Sunday, getting all their administrative work done so they can hit the road again Monday morning. So those are three things that I see great salespeople doing. Three challenging areas to answer the second part of your question.
Yeah.
It's really a lot of the inverse of that. I think it's sort of, hey, I've been successful for the last 3 quarters. I'm going to be successful for the next 3 quarters. And it's that hubris or that certainty that's because I've created success, I know what I'm doing. And that leads to then a laziness in a way or a lack of internal drive to get better. And so I always would get worried about salespeople saying, hey, why are you pushing me so hard to get my number today? Look, I've gotten all these great results the last 3 quarters. Yeah, I understand that, but it's when you start to get soft, when you don't push those extra few feet or those extra yards, that's when a competitor can pass you by. So sort of that slowdown or that lack of fire is a challenge. Second, a lot of salespeople who think that they can win and achieve by doing it all themselves. That's not possible anymore. Sales in healthcare really is a team sport. You have great leaders around you who can co-sell with you. You have great marketers who can engage with you. Your customers are usually, multi-level customers and horizontally diverse and vertically diverse. And you need a team around you to get ready for a sales call, to prepare, to get your training done. So lean on your teammates, bring them into the sales process. And those who are lone wolves out there still continue to really struggle. This is a team sport, and you have to build that muscle to sell as a team.
So you have this framework that you use that you help sales professionals grow in. I mean, I know, of course, you can't give us your stuff here, but give us a little bit insight into what it really looks like. Like you said, there's a challenger sale, there's spin selling, go givers give more, right? There's all these different philosophies, for lack of a better word. But I think a lot of sales professionals are hard pressed to truly understand what a fundamental framework of selling and how to improve that looks. Give us a little insight into what that looks like.
Yeah, well, and I'm happy to give you some of the insights here because I want your listeners to be able to take these skills and work on them right away. My goal, my mission is to help over 1 million people upskill themselves in sales and to feel more confident, to be proud to be a salesperson. So here are a couple things. We'll talk negotiations, and we'll talk presentation skills, which is also a really big need from a lot of my customers and within the healthcare industry. So negotiations, my approach and framework that I developed after 20 years and really within the experiences I had in healthcare sales is called the yes if mindset. And what this sounds like is when a customer asks me for a price reduction on my product, yes, I can give you a price reduction if you give me more volume. Yes, I can give you a discount if you give me another year on the contract. And this is a trading mentality. And what I see a lot of salespeople doing in negotiations, especially when a sales rep is going up against a very powerful doctor, a very powerful procurement organization, is they acquiesce. And acquiescence is saying yes without any protest or without asking for something in return. It sounds like this. If a customer asks me for price, yes, I can give you a price discount. Oh, great. Can you also give me a rebate at the end of the year? Yes, I can give that to you as well. And when you only say yes and you don't ask for anything in return, the trained customer is going to keep asking and asking and asking and getting more value from you. Salespeople in healthcare feel that they need to say yes in order to be liked, in order to move closer to getting the deal done. The reality is they just get taken advantage of. And that's where revenue comes down, price comes down, margin comes down. And so, yes, if is a way to say, yes, I can do this for you, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, doctor, if you can also give me something of value in return. And so what I encourage everyone I train in yes, if, and your audience as well, is start trying that now. If you're having a negotiation, even in your personal life, and I negotiate with my kids all the time, yes, you can go out and hang out with your friends if your homework is already done. Yes, you can do this if you can do that for me. And it's this cooperative trading environment where everybody wins, but value and equity is maintained as well. And if you think about it this way, Samuel, is that for healthcare salespeople, you want to, through negotiation, create a triple win outcome. The salesperson wants to win a good deal. The customer wants to win a good deal, and the company that the salesperson for wants to win a good deal as well. And if you can create that triple win outcome through a yes, if cooperative negotiation, then you're well on your way to doing that. And my courses, you can find those at learn.andyolen.com and dive into those. There's a whole series on negotiation training around the yes, if mindset. And then second, on presentation skills, great salespeople are able to stand up, confidently communicate, and persuade and motivate a customer to follow him or her. And when you have that presentation excellence and that confidence in front of customers, that passion, that optimism, that credibility can really translate to incredible results. And so I spend a lot of time with sales teams, training them on how they can upskill their presentation approach. And it's really through simple practices like the rule of three, storytelling, using slides as scaffolding, a lot of very simple best practices, and then reps in actually doing it. So actually getting out there and trying it, getting feedback on doing it. And it's a lot of fun. And those courses are available at my website as well, too.
Absolutely. You dropped the rule of three. I can only imagine how many people are wondering, what is the rule of three?
Yes.
Why don't you share with us what the rule of three is?
Yeah, absolutely. And the rule of three is really all around us. And it's our brain can only take on three pieces of data or information at a time. And our brain is built because there's a rhythm to three. 1, 2, 3, ABC. There are actually, I think, songs like that too. So if there's a rhythm to three, there's an ability for our brain to remember three. So let's play to the way that we're already naturally wired. If we're able to take on and remember three things, as then a salesperson, let's share the three most important things in that presentation with our customer. Today, I'd like to talk with you, Doctor, about 1, 2, and 3, or A, B, and C. Let's start with 1. And if you think about the rule of 3, Samuel, it's everywhere. Think about if, how we were trained as kids in North America. If we ever caught on fire, what were we trained to do if we ever caught on fire?
Stop, drop, and roll.
Rule of 3, stop, drop, and roll. You got it. And right. If we ever are on fire, and I hope none of your listeners ever are, if we ever are, what is the emergency number that we dial up on our phone?
911.
911. 3 numbers, because we can remember 3, the rule of 3. And then I always like to say, once we recover from our near miss or our fire experience, there's probably an interesting story to tell. And a story has a beginning, a middle, and an end, the rule of 3. So the rule of 3 is all around us. Stoplights, red, yellow, green, Starbucks, a tall, grande, venti size. Right. So it's all around us. So as we present, as we share information, especially when our pharmaceuticals, our devices, our diagnostics, our informatics, or our information system technologies have so many cool benefits, a salesperson has to consolidate, prioritize the 3 main things, communicate that effectively, and that should resonate with customers.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So I'm gonna switch gears just a little bit here, and I want you to address just something that's kind of been mumbled about before: introverts and extroverts. And I think the automatic notion when people hear that is sales professionals are extroverts, plain and simple. However, if you dig a little deeper, you'll find that there are quite a few sales professionals out there that are introverts and rather effective. talk to us a little bit about your take on, first of all, do you even believe that's true? And then what would you have to say about, being an extroverted person versus being an introverted person and the desire to be a medical sales professional?
Yes. In medical sales, we welcome all introverts and all extroverts. You can be wildly successful no matter what your personality type is. But, or I should say, because I'm trying to not use the word but.
Always
and, yes. And you have to be really self-aware of who you are, so you are balanced in your sales approach as well. And so if you are overly extroverted, my wife is very extroverted. She is a sales manager in healthcare, and she is on if you do the Clifton Strengths Finder, she's woo and WOOO woo. And it's like the hyper extrovert. She wants to be at the dinner. She wants to be in the middle of all the conferences, and her energy level of engagement is just nonstop. And it's a wonderful skill for her. I'm nowhere near that. I'm extroverted, usually around people I'm comfortable with or people who I'm in a familiar marketplace or industry or environment with. But then I can be a little bit more introverted as well, because after a while of being at the big trade shows, I get tired, and it's just, okay, I need to take a break and need some alone time. Introverts are wonderful listeners, and that's a wonderful selling skill. Introverts allow the customers to speak, to share. And the more you can get a customer to share with you what their goals are, what their needs are, what their objections are, you can tailor solutions for them so quickly. So introverts have a wonderful superpower of usually being great listeners. Extroverts then have to work on that skill. It's like, I know I can be high energy, and I know I can talk. I can fill all the silent space with energy and insight. But you might miss some of the things that a customer is saying. So you just have to then train yourself to be a good listener as well and ask thoughtful questions. The introvert, although their superpower is listening and processing and the thoughtfulness, probably has to push outside of the comfort zone a little bit, especially when it's going to knock on the door of a new customer that they don't know. That may feel a little bit funky, or they have to get their energy up to do it. And because it's just not natural for them to step out into that social space. So you got to push yourself there and overcome some of that introverted feeling to be able to be successful, to open up new doors, to generate leads, to prospect. So it does take skills on both sides, but my experience is great salespeople can be extroverts, introverts. You just have to be really passionate about this field, and you're going to be successful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So talk to us a little bit about, when you're someone that wants to get into the medical sales profession, right? You right now you're working with sales teams, you work with sales professionals, but what about those that want to get in? What should they be thinking about as far as themselves? What should they know that they need to demonstrate well to be taken seriously as a medical sales professional? I mean, this is a little bit outside. This is a little bit further than just the scope of selling. But I mean, I'm sure you've hired quite a few leaders and sales professionals before, been part of the hiring process. Mm-hmm. What would you say that someone that wants to get into the industry absolutely needs to have?
Yeah. So the first maybe preconceived notion that you have to just get rid of, or this barrier or block you have to get rid of, is if you look at yourself and say, I don't have healthcare sales experience, therefore I can't get in, you got to get rid of that.
You're done.
Yeah, if you put that wall up in front of you that since you don't have the experience, you can't do it, then you're not going to do it. So you got to remove that wall. Some of the most successful salespeople started in B2B selling. They sold copy machines or printer solutions or phone systems. They started as an inside salesperson. My wife, again, super successful sales manager, she sold mortgages and loans for a bank, cold calling people at like 5 o'clock in the evening. It's like she just cut her teeth doing those type of roles. So anyone can grab and hold on to an access point to move into healthcare. So if you want to do it, the door will be open. You just got to go find the doors. And so a couple ways, and I think this is back to your experience as well, is that pharmaceutical sales coming right out of college is a really good starting point. Those are big sales teams, incredible product training, big investment in and in shaping younger salespeople or those just out of college. I've seen a lot of very successful people make pivots from high tech industries and automotive industries, manufacturing industries, and come into healthcare. I've seen a lot of folks from the military move from leadership positions in the military to sales leadership positions and operations positions within healthcare. So you can come in from any angle. What you have to do is you have to network to get in. So what I will do for any of your listeners, if you want to network and you're thinking about getting in, you call me. Email me, Andy@andyolen.com, and I will open up my network to you. Link in with me at Andy Olen on LinkedIn. Check out my website, andyolen.com, and you'll find a way to contact me, and I will help you with my clients, because my clients are always looking for outstanding people. And it's a tough labor market to find great people. And smart companies, progressive companies will train people that have shown leadership, that have shown success in other industries. In fact, a lot of companies like that, because we can teach you our way of how we want you to position our technology and our products. What you have to recognize, Samuel, though, one thing people will have to do, though, if they don't have healthcare experience, is just recognize you're not bringing a full set of healthcare customer relationships with you into this new role. So during your interviews, just really communicate effectively what is your process going to be, and how are you going to go and build up new customer relationships. And if you can convince that hiring manager that your relationship building skills are really strong, I think they'll say yes to you, and you've made a good case for yourself. Boy, it is such a fun industry. And if you want to get in, I'm here to help. Samuel's there to help your whole audience. We want great people in this industry. So just get in touch with us, and certainly with me, and I will certainly open my connections to you as well.
Absolutely. Tell me this, Andy. Think about back to your time as a sales leader, maybe with Siemens, maybe with Abbott, and being part of that interviewing process. You were probably the last leg of the interviewing process,
Yep.
The final say. What would you say, if you can remember, from someone that did not come from medical sales or any kind of medical sales before? What would you say someone did that impressed you the most that came from outside the industry?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm actually working with an individual right now. I do a lot of work with a group called the Honor Foundation, and this is the group that helps special operators, so Navy SEALs, Marine Raiders, Army Green Berets, transition from their military service to the next chapter, now a civilian chapter of their life. And I'm working with an individual, a very, very senior Army Green Beret special ops leader, and he's making that transition. And it's a unique transition. I think about, to answer your question, if he were interviewing with me, what is really important for folks like him is to really describe their leadership experience. And what I'm looking for in those interviews is, if you have leadership experience, you've managed teams, you've dealt with difficult people on your team, you've dealt with big, complex decisions, if you have a global perspective, if you have an enterprise mindset that you can demonstrate through examples and through the successes that you've had, then I want you on my team. And I can teach you sort of the ins and outs of healthcare. But as you get to a more senior level, it's really about business management more so, and people management, than it is about being a deep subject matter expert. Does it help? Yeah, it helps. However, really at that level, a more senior level, people that have come in that have demonstrated, no matter what industry they're in, that they know how to create change, they know how to inspire people, lead, develop leaders. Just like this individual I'm working with who's transitioning, he doesn't realize how valuable his skill set is. He's starting to realize it, how valuable his skill set is after 30 years of military service and getting to the very highest of levels. How many companies will want him, even though he doesn't have either corporate or industry specific insights. I've already tried to network him in with 3 or 4 healthcare executives where I just know they'd look at him and look at his resume and hear his first 2 sentences out of his mouth and be like, yes, please come. So those are the big things that as you move up, you got to demonstrate from a sales rep, manager, if you want to keep moving up to leadership positions, is that you can take on big projects, be successful, inspire people, motivate, that you're a clear communicator, that you can work well cross-functionally, and that you have really good business acumen and business savviness skills.
Absolutely. Last question. As far as sales training is concerned, where do you see sales training headed? COVID just happened.
Mhm.
companies had to cut all types of services they were entertaining for their employees left and right. There's all these whispers about this big recession that's coming, and
Yeah.
usually things like sales training is the first to go. Think about the future,
Yeah.
maybe 10 years out. Where is sales training in general? Where's it headed?
I think sales training is in healthcare maybe a little bit more immune to economic ups and downs because people get sick, unfortunately, and people need service and care, and healthcare can be somewhat resilient through an economic downturn. We've seen that before. And
Sure.
so I think sales training, the clinical and the product pieces will always be there. And I also believe that companies, because of the competitive nature and because of the very ever changing dynamics of the healthcare marketplace, that sales skills is also going to be a part of that curriculum as well. And so I'm pretty bullish and optimistic over the next 10 years on where things are going, even if we go through some up and down sort of macroeconomic cycles. That being said, I think a couple trends you'll see. One, a focus on how to gain access to customers as access is being shut down. So as
Right.
you know, a lot of hospitals and healthcare facilities won't let sales reps in. And
Right.
so now how do I get in front of that customer? You're going to have to do it at the Starbucks. You're going to have to do it in the cafeteria. You're going to have to go out to dinner. You're going to have to grab breakfast or see that person in a different environment. So how do I communicate and ask for that time? How do I get that time? And then as I say, this acronym AIR that I teach, that you have to get access. That's the A. When you
Mhm.
have access, you got to make an impact, especially if you're asking for a customer's time outside of their normal hours. So I,
Right.
impact. And then R is a revisit. You got to ask for at the end the ability to come back and revisit with that customer. AIR, access, impact, revisit. So I think those type of skills are going to be very, very critical. We are also going to see a continued transformation to the sales rep of the future has to be incredibly well versed in terms of financial insights, financial acumen, understanding the finances that they're and the headwinds and the tailwinds that their customers are facing,
Mhm.
understand an income statement, understand how to create economic utility through
Mhm.
and with the products that they're selling, how to also manage value analysis committees and ensure that, when the VAC meets, a value analysis committee, and there's a procurement person, there's the chief medical officer and the
Mhm.
doctor and a few other people, the lawyer, that the value proposition that's in front of them from that salesperson's company is crystal clear. So there's an upskilling that's going to continue to happen as this environment tightens in terms of access and also gets more complex in terms of the integration between clinical benefits and
Mhm.
also economic utility or value utility of the products people sell. So I always think there's going to be a place for sales training. That's where negotiation, presentation skills get a very good positive return on investment. And then
Sure.
lastly, I think this virtual world that we all work in is here to stay. So selling through Zoom, selling
Yep.
through Teams, selling through a text message,
Mhm.
informal negotiations. These are going to be much more important skills to have while we balance our time in front of customers between in-person moments and virtual moments as well. Virtual is here to stay. And so salespeople have to get really comfortable selling in this medium as well. So I'm optimistic and bullish, but we certainly have a lot of work to do, Samuel, out there.
Absolutely. And I would even, say that it goes even further than that with social media. I mean, it's become critical as far as a sales professional. And if you're paying attention, everyone can see that these social media platforms like LinkedIn, if you can figure out how to really hone in on your message and you're an expert in your field, you can brand yourself into opportunities that are, left and right.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great shout out also to the leaders that listen to your podcast is that I think healthcare companies rightfully are very thoughtful about the regulatory and compliance and the advertising and promotion of their technologies because it's very strict and you
Right.
got to be very on label and very, very compliant. So that being said, a lot of healthcare companies don't want or discourage their employees talking about their company, talking about their products on social media, because that could be sort of the Wild West. Someone could go off label and show something and that gets them in trouble. So I think a great area of sales training for healthcare leaders is as you said correctly, we need to exploit the power of social and digital media. how do we enable the sales force of 500 people, which could be 500 unique microphones, unique marketers, to use their social media platform to send out the positive messages about our products and our companies in their own voice? My client Hydrofacial is very empowering with its people. They leverage digital media big time, and their entire global sales team is a megaphone for them. That's a progressive view. Others have to get there. Otherwise, they will lose the full advantage of social media. So there's a balance between being compliant and allowing your teams and people to be able to share that needs to be found.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Andy, it has been fantastic to have you on the show today. Anything else you want to share with our audience? Remember, our audience are people that want to get into the industry, those that are in the industry, and then those that are leading the way.
Yeah. One last tip for salespeople new to our industry, wanting to get in, or even very tenured. There are 3 sales skills, foundational sales skills that I've seen great salespeople have. And this is from when I've been in India working with sales teams to Indianapolis and everywhere in between, that they're the 3 sales skills that inspire people to say yes are connection, communication, and cooperation. These are the 3 foundational sales skills of healthcare, of really all of selling. And all I'd encourage your listeners to think about is take an inventory of a couple of the great relationships you have in your personal life. And my guess is that the communication between you and this other person is fantastic, that you are connected, you have a lot of the same values, and that you cooperate to solve problems. Think about that personal relationship and then ask yourself, how do I take all the greatness and the things that work regarding connection, communication, cooperation in my personal relationship, and then bring that over into how I sell and build relationships with doctors, with procurement folks, with technologists, healthcare providers. And you'll find that if you can really create excellence in connection, communication, cooperation, then you're going to be well on your way to an incredibly successful career in healthcare.
Fantastic. You gotta love it. All right, Andy, we're going to switch gears for the last time. And I'm going to ask you a series of 4 questions. It's our lightning round. And you have less than 10 seconds to answer each one of them. Are you ready?
Bring it. Let's go.
Okay. First question. Best book you've read in the last 6 months?
You bet. Read a couple of them. The one that comes to mind that really was impactful is Company of One by Paul Jarvis. And as small business and entrepreneurial folks like us, Company of One is all about how you can prosper being on your own or with a small team. So great book for those thinking about entrepreneurial efforts.
I like it. I'll have to definitely give that a read. Okay. Best movie or TV show you've seen in the last 6 months?
I've watched Better Call Saul and finished that.
Listen, that show blew my mind. That was a good one.
Vince Gilligan, the writing, the cinematography, the characters, how Bob Odenkirk didn't win a single Emmy Award that's criminal. Great show.
I know. Breaking Bad was groundbreaking TV, and Better Call Saul stepped it up. So it was absolutely. It was good stuff. All right, best meal you've had in the last 6 months?
Well, it's going to be tomorrow night is date night for my wife and I. We're heading out to New York City. We're going to a French restaurant in Tribeca. So I am going to put all my bets that meal, that French meal, if it's like a 3 or 4 course meal, when we're going to get a nice bottle of wine, that's going to be the best one that I've had in the last 6 months.
I've never had a future meal be an option, but hey, we confident. Will take it. First for everything. Yep. Spoken like a true sales professional. Hey, and then last question, best experience in the last 6 months.
Best experience last 6 months. That's an easy one. My daughter, Audrey, verbally accepted and committed to Auburn University to swim and study there. Did 5 weekends in a row in September and early October on 5 campus official visits for her. And ultimately, War Eagle, she's going to be an Auburn Tiger. And I'm just super proud of her. So by far, yeah, her going to Auburn and making that official is a big deal for the whole family.
That is fantastic. Is she the last one, or how many do you have?
Well, ironically, she's the middle one. So the oldest, and so the way recruiting works for athletes is it starts after their sophomore year, which is really early. So she's a junior now. So her older sister, the senior, is going through what I'll call the more traditional approach to applying to colleges like I did. And so the older sister is going through the process of applying, but her younger sister actually knows before because swimming accelerated that a little bit for her. So
Sure.
yeah, it's exciting. Then the freshman, the little guy, he's not so little anymore, just watching his two big sisters do some amazing things.
That is fantastic. All right. All right. Well, Andy, again, it was wonderful to spend time with you. Please tell us again, where can people find you and your work?
Absolutely. AndyOlen.com, ANDYOLEN.com is my website, and that will take you right into my learning portal if you want to jump into any of the online courses. Also, my book is The Trilogy of Yes, that talks about connection, communication, cooperation. And finally, like you, Samuel, I also have a podcast, The Sales Warrior Within. If you like the style and the approach, simple actions that lead to big results, The Sales Warrior Within is a great resource for you.
Fantastic. We look forward to hearing and seeing more from you, Andy.
Thanks a lot, Samuel. Great to be on the show today.
And that was Andy Olen. So many pearls of wisdom were shared today, and I hope you were taking notes. So some of you might be listening to this episode and thinking to yourselves, I want to be in healthcare and I want to sell. Well, if you've been listening to this episode or any episode for any amount of time, then you already know what I'm going to say. Stop wondering, stop wishing, and stop waiting, and go to evolveyoursuccess.com. Some of you have been trying to get an interview and it's just not happening. Some of you have been in interviews and you cannot seem to get an offer to save your life. And some of you have no idea where to start, but you know you want to be in medical sales. Again, stop wondering, stop wishing, and stop waiting. Go to evolveyoursuccess.com, fill out our application, have a conversation with our intake coordinator, account executive, and let's get you into a position that will completely change your life. As always, we do our best to bring you guests that are doing impactful, innovative things inside the medical sales space. So make sure you tune in next week for another episode of the Medical Sales Podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And remember, I have a couple programs that show you exactly how to break into the medical sales industry, become a top-performing medical sales professional, and also how to masterfully navigate your career to executive level leadership. Check out these programs and learn more at evolveyoursuccess.com. Stay tuned for more awesome content with amazing interviews.